So the lawsuit thing, I'm sure it's a question, the lawsuit thing. A guy who's no longer with me, a business guy, comes to me and goes, hey man, there's this guy on YouTube. Again, I hand to God, I've never seen any of it. I don't see any of it. Well, thank God, and people don't realize this, and even if he's doing, like, dragging it out, it's pro bono. I don't pay anymore. So if whatever issue they have with it, I couldn't tell you what's going on with it. I couldn't tell you when it's going to end. I know nothing about, I don't associate with them anymore. I couldn't tell you. I could not tell you.
Just when we thought the degeneracy of Brendan Schaub had maxed out its quota for 2024, he managed to completely flip the script and remind us just how self-destructive he really is. And I'm not talking about the way he talks like a toddler or dresses like a 19-year-old fuckboy, not even his addiction to lip fillers, nicotine pouches, and peptides. Shit just got real for Brendan, and the funniest part is he did it all to himself. Never has there been a public figure who was such a clear and present danger to themselves. Brendan's been caught lying to his audience across several podcasts, which ended up being presented to court in his ongoing lawsuit with a small YouTuber, which he started, forcing his lawyers to submit a document to the court admitting that he had in fact lied to his audience. But it gets worse. See, Brendan already lost this lawsuit earlier this year, so if he had just taken the L like a big boy and moved on, none of this would have come up. Except our boy Bupper has an exceptional ability to misread the room and completely fuck himself for no reason. Like, there is absolutely no reason at all for him to be in this position. It's just wild. Let me explain. So as most of you know, back in 2022, Bupper the business shark launched a copyright lawsuit against a small YouTuber called Kyle, who goes by the name Unique. Now here's the thing. Everything you're about to see here is a complete lie. All of the clips I'm going to play for you right now have been quoted in a legal filing by Kyle in a motion to dismiss Brendan's appeal on the basis that he is not in control of Thick Boy Productions. This is from Kyle's filing, and it's fucking hilarious. Business records filed with the California Secretary of State show that podcaster and former comedian Brendan P. Schaub is the principal officer of Thick Boy Productions. In fact, Schaub is the only officer of Thick Boy named as the Chief Executive Officer, Secretary, and Chief Financial Officer in its most recent filing. For all intents and purposes, Brendan Schaub is Thick Boy and is solely responsible for all business decisions of the entity. Schaub sells Thick Boy merchandise and bills himself as the Thick Boy himself in promotional materials. So get this, for the rest of this filing, Brendan is referred to as Thick Boy instead of his actual name. Oh, that's brilliant. Sounds like the ghost lawyer is a comedian himself. Anyway, I cannot express to you guys how redacted Brendan is for getting into this mess, but let me try. Take a look.
Yeah, that's the thing with, like, defamation of character, stuff like that. That's even like the narrative on me, which I don't talk about with, I have a lawsuit against this YouTuber who's a small time YouTuber. If you don't know the background, you're like, oh, it's this guy who's big in the space suing this smaller guy. No, I don't give a fuck. If you want to criticize my fight pics or my stand-up, my podcast, that's what I'm a public figure. I signed up for that. That stuff does not bother me. But when you start slandering my name, stealing content, and creating this false narrative of cheating on my wife and doing all this crazy shit and the defamatory stuff and using content and the clickbait stuff like that for years, well, then we're not playing the same game, man. Then I have to do something. If you made an entire career off defamation, I have to do something. And several times I've had my team reach out and go, we don't want to pursue this, dude. Just stop. And he wouldn't. So what would you do? So this narrative that, oh, this bigger YouTuber is suing this other YouTuber for no reason to silence him. I thought you didn't get down with cancel culture. I don't in any facet. This is different. You got to know your facts. You got to know your details.
Okay, so why don't we look at the real facts and details? In Kyle's recent motion to dismiss, it says, it appears that throughout the pendency of the litigation, Robert Allen has not given Thick Boy updates or explanations as to what is happening with the case. Thick Boy's CEO Schaub publicly spoke multiple times about the lawsuit in the last 2 years, but seemed to have no idea that it was actually a copyright infringement case. In fact, he continually called it a defamation of character case, supporting his assertion that he has not been properly informed by his counsel. And then he references the clip that I just played for you. Back in 2022, by his own admission, Brendan thought that he was pursuing a defamation case. It seems like everyone else was clued into the fact that it was actually a copyright case, except for the guy who was signing off on all the filings and supposedly paying the bills. Talk about facts and details, huh? Except it gets worse. Let's move into 2023, over 18 months into the lawsuit. Yet our boy Crinjo Puppy still didn't understand what the whole case was about.
Yeah, you seem to be good at like just focusing on what you can control and not letting the negativity get to you.
I mean, I have to. Otherwise, I drive my TRX off a highway, off the PCH.
Flex.
Yes.
My TRX.
I mean, it's a Dodge truck. It's not much of a flex. I didn't say like Lamborghini or nothing. It's still a truck. I'm a blue collar guy here. Yeah. So yeah, what else you can do? Stop? Quit? No, that's not me. That's never gonna happen.
But have you done anything to try to like suppress this or like get on top of it? Like it's just.
What do you? No, there's nothing you can do.
I mean, can you sue people? Have you tried doing any of that?
No, I mean we have a lawsuit with a guy who made like 3,000 videos. Again, if you're gonna critique stand up or my fight picks or my football picks, all good. That's what the internet's for. Now, if you're gonna go out there and defamation, like whatever, Brendan hits his kids or beats his wife, well, then you got my attention. I'm gonna come after you.
Oh,
yeah, that game I don't play, and the guy's suffering from that. So.
Now, some of you probably remember that clip from a video I made last year, pointing out how Brendan had no idea what the lawsuit was about and how he potentially just screwed himself by talking about it publicly. And now, finally, it made its way into a court filing. Take a look for yourselves. Almost 19 months later, a YouTube page called Hot Breath Comedy Network posted an interview with Schaub on December 12, 2023. The interviewer asks Schaub how he handles negativity online, which led to this exchange. We just saw that in the clip I played. It goes on to say, Robert Allen declined to explain why his supposed client was so uninformed about the litigation when the question was raised in lower court filings. These statements bolster Thick Boy's allegation that it was defrauded, it has not been apprised of the progress of the lawsuit, and has no interest in moving forward. Thick Boy has clearly not given informed consent for its counsel to move forward with this copyright infringement appeal. In fact, the appeal filings indicate that something odd is going on with this case. Thick Boy Productions is a Colorado corporation based in California with a principal office address in Calabasas, California. Yet this appeal was filed under a mailing address in Florida that has no official affiliation to Thick Boy Productions or its legal counsel, and appears to simply be a single-family house in a residential development. All available evidence suggests that Thick Boy has no knowledge of this appeal, no interest in pursuing it, and the action is being controlled by somebody outside the organization without the consent of the company's CEO, secretary, and CFO. Well, fuck me dead. How many videos did I have to make about this for Kyle and his ghost lawyer to finally figure this out? But it gets worse. We're now in 2024. Brendan's lost the lawsuit on the basis that Kyle used clips in his videos under the provisions of fair use, except instead of walking away and licking his wounds, Brendan supposedly doubled down and filed an appeal. Or did he?
So, but that was a time period. It's like the same thing I'm sure get brought up. Like even with this lawsuit thing, right? With this YouTuber, that's all around the same time. I have a whole team, right? You have business managers, you have this entertainment manager, you got lawyer, you got this. I have a whole bunch of people working for me at the time. I've never been the guy to give people like, you can control this. Never. It's not my thing. That's why I'm at where I'm at. But somewhere along the line, I lost my way. I started delegating certain things to people. And you notice, like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, my social media was awful because it's not me. Those days are gone.
So this was part of the Fighter and the Kids 1000th episode celebration, where they couldn't get anyone to actually come into the studio to hang out with them, so they phoned it in instead. Minor detail. Anyway, for some reason, Brendan and Brian thought it would be a good opportunity to clear up a few things about the last couple of years. You just heard Bupper explaining how at the time of the lawsuit, there was also all of that bullshit with the wrongful accusations against Bobby Lee and Kalila over the Fighter and the Kids subreddit, and so Brendan simply put it all down to delegating his authority to people who didn't have his best interests at heart. By the way, all of this is quoted in Kyle's legal filing.
So the lawsuit thing, I'm sure it's a question, the lawsuit thing. A guy who's no longer with me, a business guy, comes to me and goes, hey, man, there's this guy on YouTube. Again, I hand to God, I've never seen any of it. I don't see any of it. So this guy who works for me, right, doing this stuff, business manager, he goes, hey, man, I got a call from this lawyer. I've known him a long time. That there's this guy on YouTube. He's making thousands of videos, you know, bad mouthing you and using your content, blah, blah. And I go,
he said, I don't care.
I go, I don't care, dude. Like, there's a million of them. What are you going to do? He goes, that's bad, man. He said, you hit your kids. And I was like, okay. Next week comes back, same thing. Dude, I'm telling you, I really think we should do something, you know, and they know how to pull out my heartstring. He goes, you know, he has a rap sheet where, you know, he beat his son. It's on video on there. I'm like, whoa, all right, do what you got to do.
That's right.
And I was told,
child abuse.
Ready? I was told, this is easy. It take 3 months. It's still going on. That was
really
3 years ago. It's still going on. But here's what people don't realize is, so they told me 3 months, and I don't know if they were in cahoots together, just get money out of me or whatever. Me 10 years ago, I would never, you're never going to beat the internet. It's just, internet's going to internet. There's nothing you can do.
Internet's going to internet.
And at the time, like the initial cost, good amount of money, but again, at the time, whatever, your boy's balling. You know, so at the time, like, yeah, do what you got to do.
So according to Brendan's lawyers, everything he just said in that clip was a lie, and he was forced to sign an affidavit confirming that it was a lie, which I'll show you in a moment. But here's what Kyle's filing said about those clips you just saw. Thickboy initiated the lawsuit only after the unnamed business manager told Thickboy 2 unequivocally false statements. 1, that Swindells said Schaub hits his kids, and 2, that Swindells has a rap sheet where he beat his son. These 2 statements are absolutely untrue, yet form the basis for Thickboy filing this action. In that respect, Thickboy was defrauded by his former business manager and entered into this action under false pretenses. This is also evidence that Thickboy has never had an interest in litigating its copyright interests in the 4 videos in question. It goes on to quote one of the clips. Here, Thickboy bluntly speculates that the business manager and Robert Allen were possibly scheming to defraud him of money. Schaub appears to state that he knows nothing about Robert Allen or possibly the business manager and would not recognize him if he were in the same room. This shows that Thickboy was neither involved nor informed in the litigation at any point, even now before this Court of Appeals.
Well, thank God, and people don't realize this, and even if he's doing, like, dragging it out, it's pro bono. I don't pay anymore. So if whatever issue they have with it, I couldn't tell you what's going on with it. I couldn't tell you when it's going to end. I know nothing about. I don't associate with them anymore. I couldn't tell you. I could not tell you. Again, I take accountability because that's all. I have to give these people jobs. I have the wrong people around me that I hired. Horrible people, right? I have this business guy that had no business managing any of my shit.
Bad information.
Bad information. And I'm at a time where I'm not steering the ship, and it's not good.
So Brendan thought he was clearing things up for the record. He was doing his best in every facet to explain how he is no longer associated with the lawsuit. It's out of his hands. These other guys are taking care of it pro bono, which clearly he has no fucking idea what that actually means. And here is what Kyle's filing said about that clip. So Thickboy had ended its association with the former business manager who was handling this case and knows nothing about the litigation. Thickboy is not receiving updates from its legal counsel. This raises an important question regarding that previous delegation of authority. If the employee who was controlling the litigation is now gone and Thickboy knows nothing about the lawsuit and has no interest in it, who is making the decisions? Thickboy makes it sound like the former business manager is still handling the case without authority. As far as decision-making authority, Thickboy stated, "Your boy's back. I've been back about a year now. I run everything. Everything you see is me. Everything you see is my decision." Obviously, this is confusing. The original lawsuit was filed in February 2022, and this appeal was filed in March 24. Schaub wrested decision-making authority of Thickboy's operations away from the former business manager a year ago and has no knowledge or interest in the current litigation. This indicates that Thickboy never gave consent for his appeal to be filed and move forward. Wow, that's some good ghost lawyering right there. Thank him. And speaking of lawyering, I would pay good money to see the look on Brendan's lawyer's face when he saw this legal filing and then went to watch all the clips that were quoted. Imagine the slow closing of the eyes, the acceptance that your client is a redact, and then scrambling to undo everything Bappa just said. Well, this is what they came up with. And I'm going to try my best not to laugh while I read this to you. Stay strong, brothers. Here we go. Declaration of Brendan Schaub. I am the CEO of Thick Boy Productions. In February 2022, I appointed Robert Allen as Thick Boy's lead counsel in this action. Mr. Allen has regularly communicated with my business manager Lex McMahon and me regarding the status of this action. Mr. Allen had full authority from Thick Boy to file the complaint against Carl Swindells on February 28, 2022. Mr. Allen had full authority from Thick Boy to file the notice of appeal of the District Court's decision on March 1, 2024. Mr. Allen continues to have full authority to act on Thick Boy's behalf in all matters associated with this action. I understand that Thick Boy has fully participated in this action as required, including making the decisions to file the lawsuit, responding to discovery, and deciding to file the appeal. I understand that Thick Boy's complaint in this action alleges that Carl Swindells committed copyright infringement and not defamation. Oh, I almost made it. I understand that Thick Boy filed its opening appeal brief in early May 24 and that the parties are currently waiting for a decision from the court. So here we have a signed affidavit from Brendan Schaub basically refuting everything he said about the lawsuit over the last 2 years. This is the signed confession of a compulsive liar. And for those of you wondering why this is so serious, it's because if what Brendan was saying on episode 1000 of The Fighter and a Kid, you know how the lawsuit is out of his hands, he's not up to speed, he knows nothing about it, well, that would imply that somebody was submitting the legal filings without Thick Boy's knowledge or approval, which is illegal, right? Like, that's potentially a criminal act. But here's the best part. Now that Bupper submitted a sworn affidavit to the court, if he says anything to contradict any of those 9 points on his podcast or in an interview or whatever, well, that would be perjury. Seriously, only Brandon could get himself into this much shit over absolutely nothing. And don't forget, this whole thing is over $13,000. That's right, 13K grand. Take a look at this from Carl's filing. Clearly, Schaub is misusing the term pro bono, as an attorney at a top LA law firm would not switch a rich celebrity's case to a pro bono cause. Thick Boy's speculation that this lawsuit may only be a legal cash grab by his attorney reinforces that the term was used in error. But nonetheless, this case has dragged on for over 28 months, and Thick Boy is claiming that it did not pay for the appeal and its voluminous brief filed by its elite legal team. The Thick Boy legal team sought approximately $13,000 in damages in the lower court, so a contingency or no cure no pay agreement does not make financial sense. This raises more questions about who is controlling this litigation and whether improprieties are afoot. Regardless, all evidence points to the conclusion that Thick Boy Productions is not a willing and active participant in this lawsuit. Well, thank God for Brendan's quick-thinking lawyers who got him to sign an affidavit admitting that he is in fact in full control and knows all the facts and details about the lawsuit and its status. Ladies and gentlemen, we now have a legal document proving that Brendan Schaub is full of shit and he fucking signed it himself. So normally I wouldn't do a video like this on YouTube. This is more of a Patreon style video, but I wanted to share this with a wider audience because it's not all jokes, right? I mean, people deserve to know when they're being lied to by a public figure. That's why I've always said Brendan is not built for this. He needs to get as far away from a microphone and a camera as possible. He just cannot stop taking L's. This is why lawyers will always tell you when you're involved in a lawsuit, don't talk about it. Keep your mouth shut until it's over, because you can potentially perjure yourself. And not only that, Brendan went so far to save face in front of his audience that he ended up throwing his lawyer under the bus. He just doesn't get it. When it comes to the legal world, the things you say matter. You can't just make shit up and create false narratives to save your own ass. So if you want to stay up to date with this lawsuit and the appeal, make sure you check out the link in the description to my Patreon, where you'll find a bunch of videos, not just lawsuit stuff. It's also a great way to support the channel. Also, if you're not a regular here on YouTube yet, hit the subscribe button and make sure to give me a thumbs up if you ended up liking this video. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll catch you in the next one.
You know, I'm a shark when it comes to business. They underpaid my man. They underpaid. He should have got paid a lot more. All good. All good. That's his thing.